Like there's this Eastern spiritual teacher named Sri Ramana Maharshi. They called him the sage of Arunachala. And he still has an ashram in, I think, Tiruvannamalai, India. And the really fascinating thing about Ramana Maharshi was that they called him basically like the silent prophet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he didn't talk very much, if at all. His very presence for others is just very enlightening for a lot of people. But his whole awakening happened where he was at home and suddenly, just out of nowhere, he got this feeling that he was about to die, like that he was going to die. And
it's interesting you said that. I want to come back to that feeling that you're about to die and, you know, that like premonition that you're going to die. You hear people say that all the time that, you know, they'll start to give their things away before they die because they're having that premonition of dying.
But with him, he was a young kid.
Oh, okay.
And obviously a very evolved young kid. He said to himself, well, if I'm going to die, I don't want to miss it. So he goes onto the floor, lays down on his back. And his way of kind of expressing that was he got into the position, corpse position, and just sat there laying on the floor, waiting for it to happen. Like he was like ready. I don't know, maybe he lived a million different other lifetimes before. And he was like, all right, well, I've done this all before.
Yeah.
But he lay down on the ground and never came to him. Obviously, if we were to call it anything, it'd be a panic attack, right? But he sat there in complete awareness, and that's where he became awakened. That's where he reached enlightenment, because he realized at that point that there was a separation between his spiritual self and that what he was experiencing so clearly. So sometimes trauma does that.
Right.
And in the spiritual path, from my experience, people either get to source through trauma because it like shocks the system into paying attention.
Yeah.
Or, you know, you have a sort of maybe enlightenment samadhi experience where you're just experiencing these devout levels of bliss. And that's great too.
Yeah.
But I feel like the latter is true, especially in our Western world where there's always a catalyst for people to venture into really paying attention and doing the work.
Right.
And trauma for him, just the same as trauma for me and maybe trauma for you, really gets the gears rolling into asking those fundamental questions about like what it means to be alive.